Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today I want to talk about ICOs. How often lately have you heard what's the next big ICO? The space is red hot lately. It grew immensely throughout 2017. I want to explore where this is all going and how it compares to investing in those small cap or mid cap cryptocurrencies and why everyone is in such a rush to jump into these ICOs. So it's my belief that in 2018 we are going to see a lot of institutional money flow into this space, and that's something that I want to talk about, how that ties into this scenario as well. So as we see here, from the start of 2017 we really had a big run up, and then things often cool down over the holiday period. Some of these projects are raising huge amounts individually as well as combined total here. So throughout 2016 venture capital still far exceeded ICOs, but now we've got some more figures coming out. I'm sure this number's grown even more as we're getting into Q1 2018. But ICO funding has now passed traditional equity funding, the way that startups used to fund themselves through the stock market. And there's positives and negatives to that. So it breaks down the barriers to entry. That's also meaning less sophisticated investors are getting in, but traditionally when a company wants to raise money they have to go to those sophisticated investors, and that means that you're making the rich richer. So I think you've got to have a minimum of $1 million net wealth or a couple of $100,000 a year annual income, those sort of criteria before you qualify, depending on what country you're in. But it is making the rich richer, and that's what a lot of people loved about the ICOs, that we didn't have these, the big guys on Wall Street aren't jumping into these startup projects. A lot of us average guys have made a lot of money from being able to invest in the best quality startups. Now we see that changing. So all of a sudden we're starting to see private sales that are going behind closed doors for ICOs with big discounts. Pre-ICOs, again with those discounts, and a lot of these projects lately have got to the public sale and said, hey, we're cancelling it. We've raised all the money we want. We've reached our hard cap of $30 million or whatever it may be through those pre-funding rounds. And again, it's meaning that we're missing out. And unfortunately, these whales and these private sales, it's going back towards that old model of getting the rich richer in some regards. So I'm advising a few projects. I'm certainly pushing for the ICO structure to be very fair. I want whitelisting to stop people doing multiple accounts. I want a maximum amount, $25,000 or $50,000 per person, so we don't have these whales putting their hand up saying, I'm going to buy $2 million worth, and you end up with only a few dozen investors for your whole project. I'd much rather see 10,000 investors all getting to put in the same amount and benefit a greater number of people. So those are the sort of things that you guys as a community should push for in the telegrams and the chat rooms when people are considering how to structure their ICOs. Now the first thing to keep in mind that these are very risky, and whether or not some of these projects are worthy of the amount that they've already raised, you don't have to look any further down this list than number 2, Tezos, that raised $230 million. We're already seeing that project basically go belly up for all intents and purposes. We'll see how those legal proceedings play out. So what am I looking for when I'm looking for the best ICOs? And there is no doubt that it's getting harder. So I'm looking at what industry they're in. So I love infrastructure plays. We're seeing a lot of trading and investing, finance related, payment. Basically there used to be maybe one for each industry. Now we're seeing dozens and dozens. So one thing that I'll definitely look for is if I read about a project and it has no competition, there's no one else that's in that space or projects doing similar things with a bit of overlap. If they're in an industry that has got no competition, I want to get in on that. So the more competition there is, the less likely that one's to succeed. First mover advantage, all those things. So I'm definitely looking for projects that are in unique industries and jumping on those. The next thing I want to talk about is how this all fits in with the institutional money that's going to flow into this space. So a lot of the time I won't be interested in an ICO if it's got a large cap. So if it's going to have over 50 million up towards 100 million as the ICO price, unless I see it being a huge project, it's so much harder for that to go up tenfold or 100-fold. So we've now got about a dozen projects that are up tenfold, but about half a dozen that have gone up 100x. And it's just amazing to see, guys, but that's harder and harder to do if these projects start off with these huge market caps. So I want to find those hidden gems that no one's talking about that have a small market cap. That's the next thing I look for. So the other way we can play this is if everyone is looking at the ICO space, it's going to be harder to find things that are hidden gems because everyone's trying to find them and get in. And I'm hearing people that are coming from the traditional financing world say to me, I don't care, just invest my money in a dozen ICOs. Tell me a dozen, I don't care, I want to throw money at it. And that is not a healthy way to invest, in my opinion. And if everyone starts doing that, it only pushes the price up of everything, and then it falls harder when the rubber meets the road, okay? When they start to miss deadlines, they can't find enough developers. All these things can go wrong in the real world. So, I'm being very wary that this space is going to get overheated at some stage this year, and I want to look elsewhere for value. So in that sense, I don't mind looking at small cap coins. So even though a coin might have been around for a while, maybe it didn't have an ICO, maybe it went straight to market, I'm looking at those coins, under 50 million cap, because they can deliver just as good a value as an ICO, but the ICOs are getting all the hype and attention. I'm trying to find coins that are flying under the radar a little bit. So the next thing I want to talk about is mid-cap coins and upwards. So, depends on your definition, but let's just call it, above 100 million, getting up towards the multiple of 100 millions. And then those big cap coins, the top 10 or 20 now, all have a market cap of over $1 billion. So let's go down the list here. So we've got, about 30 coins now that are over that $1 billion unicorn sort of market cap. So what am I looking for in that sense? So it's my belief that in this space, you need to be patient. People that try to get rich quick, whether that's through investment schemes or pump and dumps, whatever that may be, I've made the majority of my wealth through being patient. Picking the good projects, as I said, sitting back, it might take a year, it might take months, who knows. These projects that have gone up 10x, 100x, you only have to do that a couple of times and you've made a serious amount of money. I only started with a very small amount of money in this space when I was graduating uni. I've built that to a nice nest egg now. So it's my belief that this year, if we see institutional money flow into this space, they are going to flow into the big three, especially. You guys know I love Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, and Coinbase are making that institutional on-ramp for people as well. But the funds are going to track the top 10, the top 20, the top 30, okay? They're going to flow into large cap coins. We've got multi-billion-dollar institutional hedge funds, it's very, very hard for them to, let's go down the list here down to number 200. It's very hard for them to put substantial wealth in coins that don't have a large market cap. So, some people say there's a rule out there that they can't invest in anything under $100 million. I don't know about that, if there's any specific criteria for hedge funds, investment funds, and that sort of thing. But the fact is, it's very hard. If someone wants to pour $100 million into either party, for example, 20 different funds want to pour in 5 million, however we want to do the maths, they're going to double the market cap and single-handedly push up the price of that just to get on board. Now, again, that just shows that this space is in its infancy. These projects have to grow to become more deserving of larger market caps and have functioning business models, with real-world partnerships, real-world working products, all these sort of things. But for the time being, for these institutional funds that just want to give their clients exposure to cryptocurrency, okay, they want to collect the fees. Their clients are saying, hey, I hear about these hacks, I don't want to set up a wallet, just give me exposure through their stock market, through their IRA or their super fund or whatever that might be. I definitely think we're going to see a lot of money just flow into the top 20, 30, especially the top 10. How many index funds, you've probably heard of them, that are going to track the top 10. So these things that aren't necessarily projects that can have valuations, money can continue to pour into Bitcoin, Ethereum, these coins that we don't know what the value of them are. So Ethereum saw a huge rise from $10 to $1,000 because it was that platform that allows all these other projects to launch on top of it. We know this year that NEM's going to have more ICOs on it. NEO's already starting to have plenty of ICOs on it. More platforms are going to come along. So again, that's more money And anything that is a protocol which I can build on top of, you guys know I'm a big fan of those coins, because people have to own them to invest in all those projects that are going to launch on top of those coins protocol themselves. So I hope that all makes sense, guys. Be patient. I'm definitely worried when people have this mentality that they need to invest in one ICO a month. You know, don't throw money at things just for the sake of it. There's going to be terrific returns to be had throughout this year just by sitting and holding and getting in your quality coins in your portfolio and waiting for the money in the market to come to you. So that's just my personal opinion, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the comments below. What coins and projects are you watching? I've got a number of healthcare related projects I'm going to cover on the channel when I have a health week soon. So please hit like, share these videos around, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.